Twitter bothers me. Why does Twitter piss me off so
That's how we're starting the show. We're starting the show with Twitter bothers me.
First off, you set this thing up, which is fine.
Okay. And what did I mess up?
Well,
it's not on as a kid's show. I know that much.
No, and I linked our Twitter, our X account. I made it a premium thing so we could go live on Twitter.
Yeah.
Guess what it didn't do?
Didn't go live on Twitter?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. This is what I'm talking about.
I think the problem is that you did the linking.
Hold on. Go live. Hold on. Let's see what this does to me.
I don't know if you realize this or not, but you kind of stink at this stuff.
No, listen. I asked Joe Costello, WFO Joe. I said, "Hey, do you have to be on this platform?" It says a premium account on X Twitter is required to create live broadcasts on their platform. Please upgrade to a premium subscription on X Twitter or stream to a different destination. Okay, guess what I did?
What'd you do?
I paid the money for. I bought the big premium thing on Twitter.
Okay, I'm proud of you. How'd that work?
It's obviously not working out. Great. It came out of my bank account, but guess what? We're gonna have to have a conversation with these jokers. Whatever. Anyways,
Jason Logan.
I mean, why? Let's see. Hold on. I'm gonna go in here and look and see what happened. It didn't even link on you. Save changes. All right, whatever. We're having a show. Oh my God. Dude, I got the shakes today too. I don't know what my problem is.
This is the welcome back to everybody.
Yeah, welcome back. We've been living life. Life has hit Jason Galvin and ourselves since Indy, since before Indy, since Brainerd. We've been doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, life hit us all, huh? It happens. Yeah, listen, the week in between Brainerd and Indy was was wild, and then, well, I mean, really, it was a day for me because, I turned around and went to, the U.S. National or to Bowling Green and tried to be a fake race car driver, so
you were a great fake race car driver that weekend.
Listen, fake it until you make it. By the way, for everybody who's wondering what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to upload pictures, but I have to change the extensions because it turns out this software that Joe turned us on to, which is great. It's great. It is, but it doesn't like iPhone pictures. You have to change it to JPEGs. Yes.
No, you're right. Yeah. So you gotta change all those things. Yeah. That's kind of bothersome.
Yeah, I'm on it.
But
anyways, yes, you're right. I was for an hour and a half, on a Sunday in Bowling Green, Kentucky, I was like the greatest fake race car driver of all time.
But you made it to the finals?
All the way to the finals, yeah.
You got a bye in the semifinals, so our phones were blowing up. Erica Enders texts me. She goes, "Are you watching your boy Galvin? He's in the finals." I go, "What?" So then we all immediately got on .tv so we could watch and see what was going on.
I got to tell you, coolest part of that entire experience for me, at least, was like our friends, people we work with, racers like Erica Enders was far from the only one, right? I mean, I got world champions who are, tuning in, watching that. That was really cool. Like, that's a special moment that I won't forget. It's just cool. It's like things that you don't think, you'll ever get a chance to, be part of, if that makes sense. So yeah, no, it was cool.
It's something I'll never do. So that's awesome. I'll never do the finals of a drag race ever.
Of a giant divisional and super comp. So, yeah. Here, I'm trying to find. Let's see how I did on my picture uploading here.
So as you're working that out,
not working. Anyways,
did you get points in the divisional? I mean, but that's not your division that you race in.
No, I claimed 7. So I haven't even gone and looked at that. That's funny. Let's see what a final round at a 7-round divisional gets me. I'm glad you brought. I hadn't even thought about that. Let's bring that up, Jason Logan. Let's see where that puts me. Should I be trying to find a ride for the rest of the year?
Why not?
Let's find out where I'm in national points.
I was gonna say, how far down do you have to scroll? Seeing that's like your
394. That's okay. Listen, for 2 events, that's not bad. 124 points. Listen, the first round loss at the U.S. Nationals is not really helping me there.
No.
Had I gone the same, actually, you'll laugh at this. Had I gone the same amount of rounds I won at Indy last year, I would be like top 200 after 2 races. First off, if I would have got down to 16 or 8 cars at Indy this year, then I would have had people telling me I actually probably legitimately needed to make a run at something. So let's see. Super Comp divisions. Let's see if they put my division in right. 7. You got me curious now, Jason Logan. You got me doing things. I do not race comp eliminator. That would help if I got my class right. I got the comp part right.
Oh, by the way,
80th. Pretty solid start. Okay, of all the racers in Division 7 who only claimed 1 race, I'm the highest.
I like it. Hey, by the way,
there's that.
I think we're on. I think we're on X.
Are we? Did we get there? Okay,
yeah.
Good.
So if you're watching on X,
by the way, I could show up to if I had a first round exit at the maximum number of divisionals, I'd be like 25th in division points right now. Which is probably what I would have if I tried to run more. I used up all of my luck on a Sunday in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Listen. Yeah. I wanted to zoom in because I wanted to see how much closer we were. Hey, but that's still good, man. Listen, you love it. You get to go out there every once in a while, do something you love.
It was cool.
I like it.
It was really cool. It was big fan of that. You know what? Hold on. I'm trying to find. I uploaded all these darn things. I'm trying to give shout outs to people. Anyways, listen, Melissa, Andy at buyherplants.com. helped get us there, and Bill Pink Carburetors helped get us there, and Getrix, of course, and it was cool. It was cool. I don't know why. Sadie Glenn took all these epic pictures, and I just uploaded them, and they show, but they don't, and I'm annoyed by that. And whatever, I'll just remain annoyed. Go look at my social media, folks. Go look at Instagram, Jason Galvin 42. Yeah. Sadie collabed with me. I felt so special. I had a collab. I was like, ooh, nobody's ever collabed with me on stuff, JLo.
Back in the day, I used to give out the PR World Champions. So it was just me being stupid, just to post stuff on Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
And the first year, Sadie Glenn won, and she did a very good job. So she was the inaugural PR World Champion. Then Courtney Enders won, but then I got grief from other PR representatives because they were like, "Oh, you're just doing that because she's taking pictures of you for free." I go, and I don't understand why that's a problem.
I mean, at least they didn't accuse you of only doing it because you were like, trying to sleep with them or something.
Right.
That's what everybody else gets.
Yeah.
Like literally everybody else gets.
Yeah. So it was.
Hey, look, by the way, we have an argument unfolding while we're arguing about PR stuff. We already have an argument unfolding in the chat. Look, Dan Nagy doesn't like the countdown. Jim Essex firing back.
Who asked you, Dan?
Hi, Scott. Just fire. Dan, who asked you?
Yeah, we all have our opinions on the playoffs, and they've been discussed ad nauseum. So it is what it is.
I am of the opinion at this point that like the playoffs are what they are. They're not going anywhere.
No,
I mean, they've been around for what, a decade now, more maybe. So.
It's
every year we argue about it. By the way, that stems from Paul Lee telling the world that he's not going to race until Vegas and Pomona to save money because he was supposed to be 11th and he's been knocked down behind the cars that were behind him. Well, he got knocked down behind the cars that were behind him because they showed up to every race. And if Paul would have showed up to every race and been 14th, he probably would have had a different feeling about the reset because he still would have had a chance to win a championship. And I get it. Like, I get the frustration there.
Right.
But 11th doesn't theoretically pay any more than 14th. So,
right.
And if you weren't top 10, you weren't going to get top 10, and that's where the money starts. So, I understand his, I guess, frustration, but, I don't know if I would have quite gone scorched earth on it.
Right.
To each their own,
Right.
I mean, like, it is what it is. It's not like everybody knew what the rules were coming into the year,
Right. You knew if you went to every race and you
got in
18th, if you would have been in.
Yeah. And if you didn't, then you were going to get bumped down behind the cars that did,
Right.
Look, it happened to Jasmine Salinas. It happened to Mark Ingerson and Pro Stock Bike. It happened to a couple of pro stock cars. It almost happened to Christian Quadra. Heck, it almost happened to Brittany Force. Like, just throwing that out there, Like,
Right.
I mean, Brittany Force almost got moved down behind Sean Reed and whoever else was outside of the top 10. I'm forgetting who that was right now, that snuck in there. Had Brittany been 11th, like, there would have been a couple cars that would have moved around her too. Jasmine Salinas. Like, Jasmine Salinas, like, there's a team, by the way, like, you want to feel bad for a team. And I am in no way, shape, or form saying that I don't feel bad for Paul's, but Paulie's team made an active decision to not come to Epping. Okay. Jasmine Salinas' team was in Gainesville, right? Those guys and girls on that team came to every single event. And Mike had, heart issues. Like, I mean, at this point, he's pretty open about what he had, and it happens, He raced in Gainesville. He was racing the whole year. He came back from Gainesville. He went to the heart doctor. He had a regular checkup. And next thing you know, he's having like massive surgery. And here we are. And so Jasmine's in the car, race number 2. And so, like, that's the team that, like, if you really want to feel bad for somebody in the playoff deal, feel bad for the team that showed up to every single race. And a lot of those crew members, I try to talk about the crew stuff a lot on here and even on the mic, just because I feel like it kind of gets overlooked. And those guys work their asses off, and girls, and they have tough jobs, and their pay is not great, with the exception of bonuses. Like, bonuses, having some family now who work on teams, the bonuses are a huge deal. And those bonuses come from winning races. They come from winning specialty races, like Paul Lee did, by the way. Great job to Paul's team. Phenomenal deal. Really, really cool deal. And then they come from season ending stuff, right? So, like, the Salinas team doesn't have a chance to be in the season ending points fund at this point. And there's like a secondary fund that, gets worked out amongst teams and whatever that don't qualify for the top 10, but they don't have a chance to be top 10. And that's because of, Mike had an unfortunate, issue that he had to get taken care of. So that's the team that I really feel bad for, Rob, Aaron, Adam, like that whole team, like they've gone to every race. They've busted their butts, they've had to break in a rookie driver without any real testing or experience. They've gotten some laps in as the year's gone on, and Jasmine's gotten much better, but Jasmine would probably be the first one to tell you that, that car might be top 10 if she drove better early in the year, but that's also not fair to her. Like I don't think anybody's going to dump on her for that. Like, she'd made like 8 runs in a top fuel car. And then we rolled into, Phoenix or Pomona, whatever race 2 was now. It's been so long. And we were like, here's the keys to the first car to go 300 to the 8th. Like, good luck. I mean,
before we get into all the Indy talk, so is Jasmine up for Rookie of the Year?
Yes, technically. Absolutely.
What about Tony?
Yes, 100%.
That's crazy.
Could
you imagine if he wins Rookie of the Year?
Well, I think he's got to be the favorite right now.
Right. He has to be.
I mean, listen, so the Rookie of the Year contenders are technically Tony Stewart, Jasmine Salinas, Richard Gadsden.
Oh, yeah.
Ida will be, because she's going to run 8 races as long as they don't park the car. Once you run 6 or more, I don't know if it's 6 or more than 6. But either way, if they run the rest of the year like they say they're going to run, and I don't know why they wouldn't, then Ida Zetterstrom. The one driver I'm not 100% sure on is Dave Richards. I don't know if Dave Richards has ever run more than, let's say, 5 races in a season. I know Sean Reed has. Sean Reed ran half the year once, I think, driving Vandergrift's car. So Sean Reed's not eligible. Dave Richards maybe, but I mean, like, the big ones, like, no disrespect to Dave, but Dave's not winning at this point unless that team goes on a run, even if he is eligible. So the big ones are really, at this point, it's Tony and Gadsden. Yeah.
Okay.
For Jasmine to win it, she'd probably need to win 2 or 3 countdown races, because she's not going to finish top 10 in points because of the points reset. But I think that'll be something interesting to watch. I think like everybody's like, oh, Tony Stewart. Like, of course, give it to Tony Stewart. Like, what if Richard Gadsden goes out and wins 2 or 3 races and finishes second in the champion? I mean, what if he wins the championship? Like, how do you give it to 5th place Tony Stewart, and his crew chief, Neal Strausbaugh, will be on in a little bit. But, how do you give it to 5th or 6th place Tony Stewart if Richard Gadsden wins the title or is second and has a chance to win it at the World Finals? I mean, it's a long way to go.
Yeah, I know. But I just, it's good. I like to, those are the things I like to hear about, because I mean, the guy's won everything. Why would he just not win Rookie of the Year in top fuel?
Right.
That'd be,
when's he going to win a race, JLo?
Well, he's qualifying. He's doing well. I mean, with number 2 qualifier, like, in Indy. And was he number 2 qualifier in Brainerd?
He was number 2 in Brainerd. Yeah,
He was number 2.
I mean, he lost number. Like the only reason he wasn't number 1 in Brainerd was a speed tiebreaker. I mean,
yeah. So Indy. By the way, first off, before we even get down the road of talking about all this stuff, you on Sunday, you did a fantastic job on the microphone. Like,
how was Monday though?
I mean, Monday, that's the one I meant. See, I forget. See,
I was like, man, that's good. Good news is my qualifying day was good. And the bad news is race day really sucked. Galvin.
Monday was tremendous. You did a fantastic job.
Thanks,
on
JLo.
Monday. And, having so, I mean, I don't know if we really need to talk about all this, but it's insider baseball. But, we're there. The NHRA is trying to move people around. Just like, hey, you're like they did it earlier in the season with Allen at the top end. I love Allen at the top end. Yeah. And, it's
every time I see Allen on the top end, what do I come back and say? I need to be better on the top end. Like Allen makes me want to step my game up,
Yeah. And I know everyone loves Allen and that's who we've all heard forever, but, it's just everybody's playing to everybody's strengths and weaknesses. I'm not going to get on the microphone and talk up in the booth. This is not going to happen. That's a weakness for me.
One of these days, I want to put you in there for.
You know what? I've been thinking about.
I want
taking
you to call
Brian
Comp
Loans'
Eliminator.
I've been thinking about taking Brian Loans' class, his announcer class.
You should
just to see see if I could even do it. I'm sure I could do it.
You could do it. Come on.
But yeah, you did a fantastic job, and the whole lead up with the revenge factor of Austin Prock,
the funny car final.
You told that story. I was like, oh, dude, no one knows that. Jason Galvin knows it.
But I get a hat tip to Phil Burgess on that one. Like,
yeah,
I knew a decent amount of that story. 50% of that story I knew and could have weaved in there and probably would have tried to weave a little bit in. But Burgess gave me, Burgess was texting me semifinals. Like, hey, like he had the qualifying positions part. I don't know who qualified 7th and 1st at Indy and 77 in funny car. Come on.
No one's going to know that.
Yeah. I mean, Bob Fry, Bob Fry probably could have off the cuff to that. Like AR wouldn't have even known that part, right. I mean, AR's got a bank of knowledge in his head that, I'll never be able to comprehend, but he didn't know that they'd flip-flopped qualifying positions, Right. I mean, come on. So yeah, Phil Burgess hat tip big time.
But that's a good thing with our whole sport and the people around it. The ancillary people just, I mean, our phones are blowing up on every round. Did you know this part? Everybody's exchanging information, and it's pretty fun behind the scenes because the Fox guys have their stats. Brian Loans has his stats. Alan Reinhart, they all have stats, and sometimes you get a stat. You're like, holy crap, who knew that? No one's going to know that.
No, listen, a lot of the stat stuff that we use, I mean, Pete Richards, NHRA now, longtime Fox producer, his bank of info that he puts together, his notes are amazing. I mean, look, AR, I guess we've not really talked about the movements and whatever. And I caution to people, like, it's not like a permanent deal. I at this point, I actually haven't seen, like, I don't know who's doing what this weekend. We're kind of rotating it as it goes. I'm going to miss some races here, like I'm going to miss St. Louis and Charlotte because baby G number 2 is almost here. And, so there'll be some changes there for sure, regardless of what we do this weekend. But, the one thing that I can say is, even when Alan was off, taking care of his personal stuff, I mean, he was texting me like every round of every event with stuff. Last weekend in Indy, he was sending me little nuggets from the top end. You don't always use them, like just, to talk about the inside baseball stuff, JLo, there's some stuff that, that he was sending me from the top end that was like a potential storyline with Top Fuel right off the bat. And, we kind of kept an eye on it early, but we never used it because it didn't really manifest itself, but I mean, that's what a good team does. We got a good team.
We did.
I mean, Joe's on the, I keep my radio in my ear when I'm in the booth, and I mean, Joe's on the radio like nonstop with stuff, nonstop. Yeah, and it's great.
And there's stuff that you guys don't use, but he's got really good. Yeah, he's got good stuff.
Sure. By the way, hat tip while we're talking about it, Chris Monahan did a phenomenal job in Indy. jumped into the team. Yes, hat tip. His primary job coming there was comp eliminator because he's the D4 guy and the comp eliminator bonus fund guy. But he jumped in on a lot of stuff for us during Indy. And he went down to the starting line with Joe and I on Saturday when I was down there and relayed a lot of stuff. He did some interviews for us and really did a great job kind of assimilating and blending in with the team. And it was great. And he's going to be at a handful of races from here on out. So that'll be really nice.
Yeah, he's a good dude, and he's a fun addition. I just like the way he talks, and he's from Texas.
Texas drawl.
He slows it down a little bit for everybody.
The Texas
he's
drawl.
a good dude. We like him. I've had the opportunity of rooming with him a couple times, so he's a good dude. So Indy is a slog on top of pushing a rock up a mountain. So that was fun. I didn't know on Friday the whole extent of what we were doing on Fox or having the Fox team call the show. If you missed that, we were live on YouTube on Friday night. And
this picture loaded. There you go. That was cool.
Yeah.
Booth cam.
Yeah, you guys did good. The booth cam was really good. When I saw the booth cam and after Pro Stock Motorcycle of me just standing up there on my little perch, I was like, I'm going to step off of this because they're never going to come to me. I'm not going to play one note of music. I'm not going to do anything. So I just sat over there and watched the race, which was kind of fun. Courtney Enders, Spencer Hyde, Hannah, and myself, we were all sitting on the wall with all the photographers hanging out, and we just sat there and watched a race. It was Friday night was fun. I loved Friday night. But I understand they're going to do that Fox cam or the booth cam again.
I think there's we talked about it a lot. So a lot went into that. We had a big production meeting early in the day Friday. I mean, it was a full blown basically TV broadcast. Loans came up there and Loans and I tag team things, and we had Alan on the top end and Joe on the starting line. We had Amanda down there at times, and JV was in the, Jordan Vandergriff was in the staging lanes doing some great stuff. We had the drone and the helicopter and the booth cam, and that was run by the Fox TV truck. So that was kind of also a good ground run for them for the weekend, going into all the live stuff they had. Obviously, Indy's a massive. Indy Reading are like the two biggest weeks of the year for TV, aside from the World Finals. And I can explain more about the Reading part here in a little bit. But the Fox crew did a phenomenal job with that.
Well,
they're great. Like the Fox crew is really uber talented. The technical people, our directors, our producers, having Todd Venny as the pit producer, Todd Venny is like world championship caliber alcohol funny car driver. His dad's a top 50. His dad, Ken Venny's in the top 50, NHRA drivers of all time. And that guy's the pit producer. Guy knows drag racing better than maybe anybody on the tour. It's a really good crew.
Well, the guy who calls the show, Chris, he calls the show for the banquet, our NHRA Awards banquet prom.
Yeah.
And have you ever had him in your ear at anything? How
Friday night,
first time. So for those of you, there's always somebody calling the show. All right, go to camera 1, camera 2. All right, ready, camera 3. That's what this guy Chris does. So at the awards banquet, it's definitely way more loose than doing something for TV, like a live broadcast, obviously, right? Yeah. But that guy is one of the driest people, and he is so funny. And he gets in there, and Brian will say something stupid on the microphone at the awards banquet, and Chris will just go down a road. And there's like 10 of us listening to it. Jared, the gym guy's laughing, and he's like right near where I'm at. And I'm just like, it's just, if you can hear the show on the headsets at the banquet, that would just be one of the more entertaining things you have ever heard in your life, because it's all of us dog ass tired from the entire season, and there might be 1 or 2 drinks involved, and it gets a little loose.
I love having producers and directors in my ear. Like, it distracts a lot of people. A lot of people don't like it. I'm used to it. I guess 5 years almost of morning news anchoring will do that. Where's the Emmy at? There, see that thing?
Oh, there it is. There's the Emmy.
There's the Emmy. Woohoo! I'm used to that. And then even now, like the ESPN stuff, I did some volleyball games for ESPN last week, and we got basketball starting up here pretty soon, and everybody's got kind of their own preference. I want the director in my ear. Like, I want to know where the camera's going. That way I can keep, side eye on the monitor. And when the camera goes there, if there's something cool I see, then I can reference it or whatnot. Like, I think, everybody's got their own style. I know, I know some, world-class broadcasters, like people who do Super Bowls who don't want anybody in their ear ever, unless it's like, hey, read this sponsor thing now, right? Like something like that's along those lines. And then I know some who want to hear everything. Like if they're changing the white balance on a camera, they want to hear that in their ear while they're doing play-by-play for a basketball game, like
I'm usually pretty good. I'm usually pretty good of talking through,
right?
Because as soon as, hey, let's throw it down to JLo, it's time to renew for tickets. Well, on Saturday, you threw down to me, and Joe Costello immediately got on the radio. Hey guys, what are we doing out there? What's going on here with this? And I'm going, hey, if you want to renew your ticket, and you start talking back to me, and I couldn't hear you because Joe was talking to,
and I could hear Joe in my ear. And as I'm talking back, just so you know, as I'm talking back to you on the mic, I'm thinking to myself, he has no clue what I'm saying. Right?
None, because I can't hear you. And I'm like, you stopped. I said, yeah, okay.
Literally like, yeah. And I was like, yep. Had no idea.
Yeah.
Not a slightest clue.
If you're watching on .tv at any point in time and they throw down to me and I start flubbing stuff up, it's because Joe's on the mic, on the radio. And I'm like, quick. I'm like, I can't get these things off of me.
Hey guys, where's our fire department coffee hero at? Our fire department coffee hero is not here. I'm guilty of it too. We all are. But it's funny.
Listen, back in the day, before like when Joe first started, he would immediately get on the thing, and Alan would, or somebody would be like, "Hey man, I can't think with all you guys talking. You guys got to stop talking." Oh, we had a big meeting about that one.
But we got multiple people late to the game, so hello to everybody. No, Nicole, you didn't really. I mean, listen, all we did was talk about my mediocre driving job in Bowling Green. We didn't even talk about my terrible one in Indy, and we're not going to.
Let's not talk about that. You know what's one of the cool things so I have to go around and host all these autograph sessions. Yep. Okay, hey, come over and get your autograph. Don't cut in line. That's all hosting it is. And in Indy, we had all the legends that were out there. And you had Don the Snake Perdome, Shirley Muldowney. Who else was there? Big Jim Dunn was signing autographs.
Richard Tharp. Billy Meyer.
Billy Meyer was there.
Herb McCandless.
Yep. All those guys were there. But so it was kind of cool to see all those guys. And I know those people don't know who I am because they're just like, hey, whatever. We see, you're just some guy wearing an NHRA shirt. Well, on Sunday or Monday night, roll back to the hotel bar after dinner, and who's sitting there? Don the Snake Perdome. And I'm just like, oh, there's Snake. We're all rolling in, Brian Loans, everybody. And Joe introduces me to Snake. Now, I've met Snake about 100 times. If he recognized me not wearing a NHRA shirt, he'd be like, I don't know who that guy is. But we sat there, we started talking, and Joe goes, yeah, he's the guy who plays all the music. Well, that guy lit up for about 10 minutes telling me that I do a good job at NHRA, and he likes what I do. So for all you haters out there who don't like what I do, Don the Snake Perdome does.
Yeah,
I liked it, but no, it was cool to sit there and talk to that guy.
I'm gonna side with Don Perdome for the record.
Dude, that guy. By the way, that guy.
Haters can hate, but if you got Snake's approval, then you're all right.
And by the way, that guy is the coolest guy on the planet.
Literally the coolest guy in the world.
And we sat there, we were just listening to him talk, and he's going to talk drag racing. But the coolest thing I found with all these legends is you can talk to them about, hey, back in 1974, you were at whatever racetrack, and in round 3, you beat so and so. They can describe how that run went.
Yeah,
and it's like, what? I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast, let alone what I did back in 1974 at Chicken Stick Racetrack. But that was kind of cool to hear all these guys telling stories. Hannah had a bunch of them up on stage with her.
I went to a couple of those, by the way. Hannah crushed it on stage last week.
And she prepares a lot for those things. But
she does. It shows.
Yeah. where I just go and wing it. Hey, dude, there's Richard. I need the hero cards to know exactly who some of these guys are. I was on an elevator with Dave Richards in the Minneapolis airport. And Joe, we were talking, Joe. I go, who was that? He goes, that's Dave Richards. I go, oh, that is? I just see him wearing a helmet and a fire suit. I mean,
Well, yeah.
That's kind of the hard part.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was good. But yeah, you did a great job on Monday, and Monday was
JLo.
ridiculous.
By the way, JP, man, I felt bad for that team. Like, that team I thought had a great car, and a car that had a chance to, catch people by surprise and win the U.S. Nationals, and then parts breakage is no bueno.
Yeah, no, that's not good. That's not good. What about Clay Millican winning? How great was that?
Clay Millican is awesome, man. I was so happy for Clay. I was really happy. We're critical about ourselves on things. The thing that I was mad about, I didn't feel like when I went back and listened to Monday that I did a good enough job for JLo and Nikki, because like those two guys had never won Indy as crew chiefs and had been working at that for 40 years. We've had JLo on the show before. We how close JLo and I are. I felt bad about that. Like I was so focused on Clay that I felt like I could have done a better job giving them props. But man, that was cool. That was really cool. We had some great stories. It
was
AP went in with the family, and then you mentioned the whole snake tie-in. Aaron Stanfield doubling, like nobody had ever doubled to the U.S. Nationals.
That was shocking to me. That when you started talking about that, I'm like, what?
I was surprised by it too. Yeah, I was very surprised by it. So. And then Gage. I mean, I know people get tired of the Gage story, but also Gage lost this race last year, for like all the things that Gage Herrera, untouchable, Gage Herrera, not a U.S. Nationals champion before last weekend. So no, it was really cool, really good.
The too fast, too tasty mess up. That was always fun. See, this is I likened it to. Too
bad social media didn't get a hold of that, huh?
Dude, Indy is like shoving 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sack. There's so much stuff going on, and there's so many different factors to all these. You got call outs, you got too fast, too tasty. Something got missed, and we didn't factor in 4 wides. It happened, and it's okay, but. The guys that had to go get the trophy back from Matt Smith, they said that was not fun.
I'm sure.
But yeah, it was definitely a fun weekend.
I loved the conspirators online though. Like, I love a good conspirator.
Oh, I do too.
There's my favorite, maybe my favorite conspiracy theory of all time circulating the internet today. I texted that to you and Joe earlier today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That dude, when you said that, I was like, oh my God. I had just woken up when I saw that. I was like going, is that really happen?
I'm not even going to bring it up here because it's related to last night and the debate. And but man, you gotta be really dumb to believe some of this stuff. And then people buy it. But so that goes back to the too fast, too tasty deal. Like, oh man, my favorite one. Oh, Terry Vance called NHRA and donated more money so they would take the championship away.
What's the matter with people?
Guys, first off, I don't think the Too Fast, Too Tasty championship even pays. You got a trophy. Big deal. It's a cool trophy, but big effing deal. Like
I think they do get a. No, you're right. I don't think they get a check.
I don't know. I don't think they get a check for winning the championship. If they do, it's not like it's life changing.
Well, they were holding the big banner up at the top end or something. I don't know.
They get a banner and a trophy. Listen, if they get a check, it's not like it's $100,000. Okay.
No.
So like really, like, oh yeah, you're like NHRA is going to sell its integrity, and Terry Vance is going to write a check for God knows how much money so that he could get a check for $7,500.
Right.
Y'all know Terry Vance? He don't need the $7,500, guys.
No.
He doesn't. I'm just throwing that out there.
Another legend who seems to like me. Terry Vance loves me. What are you talking about?
Well, that's just because you're the only one who hasn't, verbally abused his child yet. So
what? Come on, dude.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
What's up, Walt?
I've verbally abused him as soon as I saw him. Day one.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Whew, yeah. There's
And
a story. Listen, this is the behind the scenes podcast. There's a story that we cannot tell.
No, but I am on his case. I'm like, going into this weekend, I realized that I'm old, and there are people.
Wow, great! Congratulations, you realize you're old. Who knew?
There are people that work at the NHRA that are my kids' age that are telling me what to do, and they tell me what to do, and they're the boss of me. Okay, that part I have to humbly step back and go, okay, you're right. So with Terry Vance's kid, sometimes I go in full dad mode on him. And that after Indy, he moved back to California and he's moving in with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I went, why would you move
in
with
with
your
the whole
girlfriend?
lecture.
Yeah, you can't move in with your girlfriend.
The birds and the bees.
Yeah, this is how you're going to break up. Oh my God. And I've had this conversation, 3 times with my older sons, and they don't listen to me either. And Jordan definitely doesn't listen to me, but it's so funny to just totally go down the road with him. And like I care what Jordan Vance does, but it's fun. It's fun to come down the mountain because I'll get on my high horse and it's great.
What did one of our people say? You gotta test drive the car before you buy it, right? I mean,
yeah, that wasn't me though, because that sounds like a HR violation to me because I would get in trouble.
What'd you do? Did you just move in with your wife after the wedding?
Oh, listen, my first wife, we're not going to go into the first wife, but the first wife, it's another thing. But my wife now, we didn't move in together. No, sir. Nope.
You waited until after the wedding.
You darn right.
That's why she hates you. Makes so much sense now.
Dude, there's so many reasons why she hates me.
Well, that's true. That's true. It does. Hey, by the way, I like to point out, if anybody's looking at me like, wow, Galvin looks like he hasn't slept or he's drunk or whatever. If you don't read Facebook, we lost our dog yesterday, so it's been a rough 24 hours. Maybe some tears this morning. That's why we're a little beat up here. But
I was drinking watching the debate, so that's why.
Yeah, that's probably why you're like that. Yeah, no.
Oh, but yeah,
it's all right. I can wear my emotions on my sleeve. But
you can, dude, and that's one of the saddest things anybody has to do because, like you said in your post, that was your first child, and something you and your wife did together, and it's okay.
For sure. All right. Our guests, and thank you everybody who's chiming in on that. So if you really want to cry, you can go read the letter that I wrote to her, because that's what I do. I write letters. When I lost my grandmother, I wrote a letter. Kobe Bryant died, I wrote a letter. I write. Yeah, I'm a journalist. I write. And I didn't know it, so I didn't tell my wife I did that. And then she this was probably messed up on my behalf, right? My wife is 37, almost 38 weeks pregnant. I went to bed after JJ went to bed last night. And then my wife went and read it. And then when we woke up this morning, what time did you come to bed? And she's like, sometime after midnight or whatever. We're up at 6, getting JJ ready for school. I was like, oh, she's like, yeah. I sat on the couch and cried for an hour. And I went, oh, I'm sorry, babe. She goes, yeah, I read your letter. I went, ooh. Probably should have warned you about that. She's like, no, it was a good cry. And I'm like, still should have warned you about that. Right. Husband did a bad job. Terrible, terrible husband moment. See, there's a Jordan Vance life lesson right there.
There it is.
Jordan, communication.
Yeah, Jordan, do that when you move in and pick up your socks.
Yes, pick up your socks. There you go. All right, let's ask our guest. While we're talking about moving in early. Hi, Neal Strausbaugh. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, Neal Strausbaugh's birthday.
It's your birthday?
Yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
Why did you have Queen Latifah teed up or?
No, that's Queen Latifah. That's Stevie Wonder. Happy birthday.
Oh, that's Stevie Wonder. Wow, it's a guy. Now I feel really bad about that.
To you. Or we could just go full Bennigan's. Happy birthday from Bennigan's to you. Happy birthday. Or my all-time favorite. This is your birthday song. It isn't very long. So Neal, how was your Indy?
My Indy? My Indy was the month of Indy for everybody.
Yeah,
man, it's only one extra day, but man, it feels like, I guess it's just everything that leads up to it. We have so many, vendors and friends and family that come to town and come by the shop, and just we had to do that unveiling the week of, and just it was just very busy. So it just seems like, all the hype that leads up to that, it's very taxing, I guess you could say, for the entire group.
Did you guys stay
Yes.
and test on Monday too?
On Tuesday
or Tuesday? Yeah, I guess
I know that throws everybody off. We did
stays,
not.
right?
We did not. I think. I mean, that may be a record. That may be the first time we skipped a pit session this year that cars were running at. But no, we were pretty happy with the performance by the end of Monday, and just didn't feel that we needed to go flog it on Tuesday. And we'll see if that stands true here within a few more days.
Yeah, that always the whole testing the next day after a race. It's like I work in entertainment and bands and stuff like that. And they all have to come in and do a sound check. And the sound checks is like an hour to 2 hours long. Like, you guys were just playing last night. It's like, how many more decibels do you need the drummer to kick the kick drum and all that? And I'm like, you've been doing this for years and years and years, but each track is different. And after each race day, like you said, you were happy with what you guys have, but some of these guys are like, man, that car just did not sound right. I mean, how much in a test session, how much more information can you get than what you would find? Because you were at Indy, we're going to Reading. That track is completely different, correct? I mean,
for sure. Now there's usually a couple of reasons why we choose to run the car. There's always you're either going to run it, kind of in a development phase, whether you're going to be working on something for the future, or it's kind of known in the industry, or you're out there practicing. So if your performance isn't where it needs to be, and a lot of times, after an event, if let's just say smoke the tires on the starting line, and it's Brainerd, for instance. I guess I'll just back up through Brainerd and explain kind of how our test went there. We went into Brainerd and had a pretty aggressive mindset throughout the weekend, and that was working out well when the cloud cover was in. But as soon as it warmed up, we didn't go down the track when it was warm. So we stayed and ran on Monday after Brainerd, and that was a lot of our what we were working on was, hey, let's just make sure that we can get this thing to drive off when it gets warm with the more aggressive setup that we were running, and kind of blend that together. But yeah, so a lot of teams are going to run after an event just for validation, whether they made the right calls, wrong calls, whatever the call should have been for that race day condition, or you're working on development. A lot of times you got to run new clutch packs or new clutch discs. You've got a new package. And obviously going into the countdown now, the development phase is done. I would say for most every team, we're out there right now that if they ran Tuesday after Indy, that was if it's a countdown car, they were definitely running for their standard performance setup that they're going to drag into Reading.
gotcha. That makes sense. Neal, I don't know anything about this stuff.
Well, you watch a lot of it.
I watch a lot of it.
That
but
means nothing.
It means nothing. Actually, I do know a bunch about it, but if I start letting people know that I know more stuff, then I'll have to do more things, and I can't do more stuff. So it's like when you wash your clothes and you ruin your laundry, and your wife yells at you, you never have to do laundry again.
Right? Yeah. No, mess it up so you can get out of it. I like it.
Big brain.
What's changed for you guys the last 6 races? That start of the year, obviously, Tony, new driver to the car, right? New driver, but specifically to the car, make the rule changes. There's some stuff there, but it kind of feels like you guys are on a similar trajectory of last year, where the 5 or 6 races coming into Indy, I think everybody's looking around, looking at that car going, well, it hadn't won yet, but it's coming. And when it does, we're in trouble. And that happened last year, and everybody went into the countdown going, well, if they keep this going, they're going to be a problem. And you guys were effectively a 1/10 of a second from winning a world title last year. Kind of feels like you're on that track again.
I believe so. Yeah, I feel that in my gut that we have a pretty good race car right now. So yeah, it's definitely been a struggle. I had no idea. I don't know, maybe just I had confidence or was blind to the fact that there could be so much difference between the drivers and maybe the tubing difference. We're running a different actual chassis this year that is set up just a little bit different because of Tony and how he fits in the car. But um, it's a extreme mental challenge to come out of um, when you're sucking, man. It's tough. It's every week. It's a snowball effect when you're not running well. You lose the first round, you lose a couple first rounds in a row, and then it's not that the pressure from any one direction is building. It's all of it. It's the pressure that you put on yourself, and it's like, oh gosh, we have to do better. We have to do better. We're testing more. So not only are you're burning more money at a rapid rate because you're testing, trying to get out of that hole. You're wearing your guys out. You're wearing your parts out, and it's just then you go to the next race, and there's just no guarantee that it's fixed. You go to the next race, and you could lose first round again. There's no like, oh yeah, even if it's on the right path. So because these things are, no one has it completely figured out. No one ever has. No one ever will. It throws you curveballs. No one wins every race. Even you watch guys go on a string and you think there's no way they're ever going to be stopped, and then they trip, stumble, fall, and it takes sometimes cars a while to get back, and sometimes never come back. So yeah, all that to say this, I think the pressure as um, going out west, felt we had a better car, and then Seattle, we struggled again in Seattle, and we had some parts changes that we had changed over the last off season, and it was just a culmination of several things. So officially after Seattle, we made some, I want to say, somewhat major changes. We changed some of these parts back. Um, we also got Dickie Venables involved with helping for kind of a 2 race thing. We did. He worked really hard between Seattle and Sonoma, looking over a bunch of runs, and then after Sonoma, going into Brainerd, we just spent hours going over runs, combinations, just talk. And probably the biggest thing for me is that after going through all that, Dickie was able to just say, uh, there was no smoking gun. There was no like, hey, hey kid, you're doing this way wrong. And there's two sides to that. I know Tony wanted to hear that, was that, oh yeah, and point to the problem. Here's the problem, fix the problem, and then let's go winning races. But from my point of view, I was like, okay, well, if you can't find anything wrong, obviously it's my tuning decisions. And, we were kind of on the same page. He's like, man, the clutch is just way late. We just need to get, we just need to get way more aggressive than you maybe ever, or that I had ever been, due to where a lot of the timer settings and clutch flow settings and all that was at. So it, honestly, going into Brainerd, I told Tony, I said, hey, this thing will smoke the tires twice in qualifying, but the car speed will be up when it comes loose. Like, I am sick and tired of just, I hate to say running scared, but you do. You get to this point of, oh man, I'm just too scared to screw it up and hope it goes down the track. And instead of the mindset of like, we're gonna push on this thing, and if it comes loose, we're gonna be okay with that. And honestly, that was probably the biggest thing for me, with Dickie's help, was just going, hey, hey kid, you're all right. Just do what you need to do, and it'll be all right. And so we did that in Brainerd and qualified number 2 there, smoked tires second round, stayed there and tested after that. Worked on some stuff, on the starting line, and then went to Indy. And my Saturday morning in Indy, that was quite a pucker factor for me. We dropped a cylinder on Friday night, which I know the fans love that run, and it's that way many, many years in a row. But that Friday night run is just brutal for all of us, because normally that run sets the field at Indy, or is really close to setting the field at Indy. And I always like to have almost that test run coming in the gate. I'm a big fan of 4 qualifying runs, not 3, because those Friday night runs, when you got to hit it right off the trailer, and that's going to set your qualifying position. That's not really fun for anybody tuning one.
Sure.
So, but we dropped a cylinder on Friday night, and maybe due to just, it was extremely wet air, that the air was actually terrible for the situation, to try and go out there and run really well. Luckily, we got some cloud cover the first run on Saturday, which was the Q2 run. And the car was rolling into the water box, and I told Ryan McGilvery, I go, man, I said, I don't think I have it slowed down at 150 feet enough. It's going to be on edge. But I stayed aggressive. I was just like, all right, we're sticking with this. We got to do it. And then it ran 70, and we were number 1 qualifier up until Brittany ran, and then stayed qualified number 2 for the remainder of the event. But our 83 run from Q1 would not have stood in the field,
right?
How it played out. And we also, man, I'm as much of a fan of the sport as anybody, and getting to watch how that qualifying effort played out for many of the big teams. I was, I don't wish that drama on anybody. That is the most miserable thing ever to go through, but it's also great hype for our sport, and it also shows the reality of no one is guaranteed to have all this figured out.
For the guy holding the microphone on Sunday, that I'm with you, and it stunk not having the reigning world like Doug Coletta, Hall of Fame driver, finally wins a world title. We're at the biggest race of the year. He's won this thing before, and we don't get to kind of celebrate him on the biggest race day of the year, Monday at Indy. Not having him in the field sucked. But also the drama of Sunday with Doug bumping in, and then Sean bumping Doug out, and then Jasmine taking a shot at that was as entertaining,
yes,
from a what we do standpoint session as possible. I know that's hell on you guys, but for us, that's what I live for. I live for those moments.
Yeah, no, it definitely. Yeah, and again, you say I sit there and watch the stuff, and again, I for me to get fired up about some of that stuff, I'm going, okay, that was pretty cool. And I was I even when Doug bumped in, I go, Sean's gonna knock him right back out of this. And I'm just,
he almost didn't. He was eating himself up to get in. That was a hard session to get down the track.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think a lot of, I've been in that position back with the Army car, where we've gone into Q5 not qualified. It is just, it happens nearly every year there. Hard to believe that with 5 qualifying runs that it can be that much of a struggle, just because there's a lot of great cars on property, and whenever you drag some of the the Trip Tatums and
look, when Trip Tatum and TJ Zizzo are firing off low 70s on Friday night, that's kind of the point where I think if you were a top fuel tuner and you guys and Alan and Brian on the Coletta cars, Friday night did not go the way those 3 cars wanted it to go, and you guys had to all be standing up there watching Trip Tatum and TJ Zizzo unload and fire off 70s going, oh.
Yeah, every time it happens, you just go, man, the pressure cooker just went up another notch, because it just gets harder and harder. But again, it's I'm a fan of the sport, and I love watching that, except I also know that feeling of going up there to do that. Because we've all been there. There's how many times is the $2 part bit you? I think of the
spark plug issues we've had in the sport this year, right? I'm sure you guys have gone through it at time, but in Indy, there were teams that were shooting porcelains out of it, and that's not anything you can control. You talk about dropping cylinders, and there's a lot of tuning factors that go into that. But if the porcelain blows out of the spark plug, you're going to drop the cylinder, and there's not a damn thing in the world you can do about it. You could have put the greatest tune-up ever in the race car. If there's no spark,
Been there.
I mean, like,
Been there. Lost
know.
races to that $6 spark plug. So
Right.
we're no, I mean, I think everybody's eyes are wide open to that. It doesn't have to be a bad tuning call to not qualify on the final run. It could be that we always say there's a million and one ways to lose. There's always the running joke of, well, write that one down. There's another one. There's another one. But yeah, no, as far as the, that race, man, I think, I get so wound up for that first round. It is like, I can honestly say I was more calm going into the Pomona finals last year, racing for a championship, or even the final round run there. I was way more calm than first round of Indy. And I think it's just due to the hype of, all those qualifying efforts. It's like, okay, well, we dodged those bullets and didn't have to come down to Q5 and deal with that drama. Let's not be the drama exiting first round after being out here with, as I joke about the month of Indy. It's like you don't want to end on that note after all that hype of that week leading up to it. So I just been very fortunate the last couple of years to get a first round win there, and then this year made a couple good runs going to the semis. But there is nothing like that. I mean, I wish I could. There's some guys out there, some of my friends that are other tuners and stuff, they'll downplay it. Oh, it's just another race and this and that. But I don't know if it's just me with my background. My dad took me to that race when I was 9 years old. That was my first drag race ever, was to go to the U.S. Nationals. So for me, it's the big one. I've been very fortunate.
I'm like you. I think like that, I've been fortunate to race in that race 3 years in a row now. And, the feeling that I get like round one, and it's Thursday morning for Super Comp. I mean, there's nobody there. I mean, you guys are rolling rigs into park. There's 6 people in the grandstands, but like Thursday morning Super Comp round one, like I was more up for round one Indy than I was for the finals in Bowling Green the week before, and I don't think that affected anything in Bowling Green, but like literally, and it's funny. I actually remembered that going into round one this year and made a decision. It's funny. You talk about like your decisions in Brainerd and like a kind of a mindset change of like, instead of racing, kind of scared-ish to like, we're going to go for it. And like, this thing's either going to run low ET or smoke the tires. And we're going to be okay with that. And like, in like the Super Comp cars, I kind of feel like you've got to make that decision as a driver, like based on how, you respond to moments. And like, you're going to set the box where you're going to set the box, the delay box. And like, 8 out of 10 times I'm going to let go and be double O, and 2 times I'm going to be red. And I got to be okay with those 2 times because it's round one of Indy or it's the finals or whatever. Right. And I didn't do that 3 years ago. My first Indy, I didn't do that. And I went red, and by like 7th, I was 007 red and didn't stack the box and had a pretty easy opponent in the other lane. And I hated it. Like, and so then last year, but I was okay with it because like it was round one of Indy, and like, okay, so I got after it like it was round one. But I remember that this year, and I literally was in the water box and rolled 10 in the box and was 008 round one. And I lost the round. There's a whole bunch of stuff that went into that, but like I just remember looking at the time slip on the top and thinking to myself, well, the one good decision I made this week was I rolled 10 thou in the box in the burnout box and went 008. Like, what would have really sucked more than screwing up the top end? Being red again. Dude, something about round one, and like honestly, like it's round one, I guarantee you I would have taken most of that back out had we got by from round 2. Because I would have put it right back where it was in Bowling Green, where I was 00 almost every round, and like and would have been fine. But like I just felt like it's round one of Indy, like I'm up. Man. And I think everybody feels that. Like you, like I grew up, my uncle was Tom McEwen's crew chief in '78 when he beat Snake. And like I've since I could open my eyes, I've watched that video. Like I know what Indy means, like that's been ingrained in me since I was a kid, that in this sport, nothing. I mean, Shirley Muldowney and Richard Dart both this weekend on the microphone, right? Like winning Indy meant more than winning a world title. I mean, it's got to that's got to stand out to you,
Yeah, no, it's real, man. It's a pressure cooker.
How many times have you been on a car that's won the race?
I've won it twice with Tony Schumacher, which I guess those count. Tony's got like 10 of them.
Right.
Tony does have 10. Tony's the one guy who rolls into Monday at Indy and he's like, I don't know what everybody's freaking out about. This race is cool.
I know
This
he
is
won on a
easy.
hole shot first round, and I'm standing off to the side, and I leaned over and told Mike Green, we were just standing beside each other, and I go, that guy's pretty good here, we laughed, and then, but he doesn't win them all. He doesn't win them all.
Yeah.
That's why you got to drag him up there and run them. But no, I've got a couple of Indy wins and a few, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of the shootouts there. When dragsters were running,
Right.
or even the funny car. I've got a Traxxas shootout with Jack Beckman there. But yeah, no, I've doubled up there with the Army car. We got the Traxxas and the win. That was really cool. Just great moments to be a part of, and two sides of that. You either won it and you know what it means and you just want to do it again because it's that big, or you haven't won it and you've watched guys that have won it and you go, man, that looks really cool, and I want to be part of that club.
Yeah.
And it was I had texted some of the guys on Clay's car last week after that win, and just it's just something special. And there's guys that'll race in a lifetime and never get that one.
Yeah.
And so it means that much to everybody that's involved, I think.
All right, I want to ask you, JLo, if you want to finish.
You can go. That. I have a question, but it could wait.
I want to ask. I wanted to ask you specifically about Tony the driver. Like I mean, you've worked for Tony the owner now for a couple of years. You get that. You had Leah the driver. Everybody's got kind of their different things, but I'm curious. Look, you've worked with, you just mentioned Jack Beckman, Tony Schumacher. Like you've worked with a bunch of world champions, some of the greatest drivers of sports scene. What is, and maybe there's nothing, but is there anything different about Tony? I mean, like in my opinion, and I have said I don't shy from this. I think Tony Stewart is the greatest race car driver in American history. And that comes from somebody who grew up idolizing Mario Andretti and AJ Foyt, but I just think those guys did it at a time where, like, I'd make the same argument like Don Perdome versus, somebody today, right? Like, it was different in the 60s and 70s, right? You could buy better stuff than people. That doesn't mean that's why you won, but you could have better equipment. You had to be smart enough to do that. You could have a better program. You could understand how to run the cars better. The driver could make up a lot of stuff back then that you can't really do in the last 20 years, since auto racing as a whole across the board has kind of gone into this box of more streamlined, everybody buys the same stuff. And you have a guy like Tony Stewart, Kyle Larson's kind of along those same lines, who literally, I mean, if you put him in a soapbox derby car and dropped it in a lake and told him to, row with everybody, he'd probably beat the doors off of them. And if he didn't, he'd hit him over the head with the row on the way to the shore and still win the race anyway. So I think he, for what it's worth, is pound for pound the greatest driver in American history. And I'm curious if there's anything that you have seen with him that's just kind of different from the other greats you've worked with.
Yeah, I probably don't talk about it a whole lot. Just Tony's obviously a very humble individual when it comes to talking about his driving.
I would agree with that. Yes, absolutely.
He never describes himself as I this, I that, anything. Everything is, well, we accomplished this and we accomplished that, it's really cool how he, talks about some of those big moments in history that, man, he's been through it. There's just not enough time to get all the stories out of him for what he's accomplished. But I can say in drag racing that he's a freak of nature, in my opinion. It is super eerie what he has been able to accomplish inside the race car already. And in some of the earliest runs, we were testing in Gainesville in the off season, and they were pretty tricky track conditions down there. It was cold, and the car was either going to shake down low or smoke the tires a lot. And as a official Top Fuel rookie, he may have had, I don't know, 10 or 12 runs under his belt, and we smoked the tires a couple times, like within the first 2 feet of the racetrack. And those are, in my opinion, are the hardest from what I've never driven one, but I've watched a lot of drivers. And when it smokes the tires that early, it's really hard to catch it. A lot of times, especially as a rookie, you're going to over rev it. It's going to backfire the supercharger. And we actually talked about it as a team. You know, without Tony being there, I told the guys, I go, hey, this, just be ready. This is going to happen. We are going to backfire this thing on the starting line. We're going to have his back. We're going to get him through it. You know, he's going to learn. He's going to be better. But I mean, unfortunately, due to some tuning struggles that I've had this year, we've done that to him a dozen times, and he's never not caught it. It's even Leah comes in, she just giggles about it. She'll shake her head, and you know, she looks at the computer, and she's very in tune with you know, drivers' reactions, not just on the starting line, but your reaction to the shake that you feel, or the tire spin, or a cylinder being out, or whatever it may be. And he is it is freakish how well he's able to catch the car whenever something's going on, and or just to be able to replay what it did when he gets back. You know, he's definitely not what I would consider a rookie development driver in Top Fuel.
Right.
He's got the feel of it. He knows, he can tell now where when it's running really good through half track. You know, if we've been 297 and changed through the 8th mile, and he came back and was like, man, he goes, I could really tell it was really pulling on that run. So he's definitely comfortable inside the race car. He's another thing about his driving ability. So early on in testing, you know, just kind of the cadence of the burnout and the backing up and all that. We talk about all that. It's hey, this run you backed up a little fast. Hey, this run you backed up a little bit slow. But I'm trying to think. You know, there was only maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 things that we've even really talked about that said, hey, change this.
That's ridiculous.
And then what is insane about it to me, it's like it's a computer program. We mention it one time and it's like fixed for life. It's very eerie. I can't describe that. But the only thing I can imagine is like, you know, maybe 5 or 10 years after Michael Jordan retired from basketball, if you just, you know, if you're a college basketball player who's on the rise and up and coming, and you're maybe not a professional, but you're just a really good basketball player. If you went one-on-one with Michael Jordan and he just completely in his retirement stage, just like took you to school on, you know, just one of the greatest of all times, it just goes, here, kid, let me show you how to do this. I think that's Tony now in a race car at this point in his career. You know, he has a lot to prove in NHRA, only because he wants to. He doesn't have to. And but he's
has he gotten done with a run before and said, hey, I feel kind of like this, and it kind of triggered or sparked something in your head going, oh, I didn't even think about that. I mean, because he's so great, he just gets in a car and he might be able to see something you guys hadn't seen just by sitting his butt in the seat and doing it. And you guys said, oh, you know what? We didn't think about that. Maybe we should try what he's talking about.
I don't know necessarily from setup wise, but we have many conversations just because, man, trying to blend all those years of his knowledge into, you know, he plays, oh man, I'm just the dumb driver. Oh man, I don't know anything about these things. And then he goes into like, well, when we set up, you know, the Indy car or the stock car or the sprint car, or, you know, he starts getting into spring loads and tire loads, and he loves tires. You know, he's always talking about tires and spring rates and grips, and because that's just you know, really where he cut his teeth and did so much in sprint car racing was, you know, tire development. So anyway, we have many conversations that do you know, definitely spark interest in, man, we never really thought about that. And but no, it's awesome getting to experience that. I wish everybody could, you know, not that I want to just turn over all my data to everybody, but I wish everybody could see how well he really is just understanding the race car and the feeling of the race car. And he's doing an awesome job with it.
How Jason, that was kind of a question I was going to ask too, what you just asked, but because you worked with Don Schumacher Racing, now and that guy, legend, titan of the motorsports in our world, and we've got Tony Stewart over here, Hall of Famer, that guy. How has it been working for both of those guys as owners of the team? I mean, Don, Don was just a legendary figure out here, and then here comes, like Jason said, one of the greatest of all times, and now he's coming in and running a whole team. How's it been working with him? Like from that owner standpoint?
From an owner standpoint, well, Don Schumacher, I would have to say was, and I don't think anybody would argue this. I mean, he was a businessman first and a racer second, and that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. I mean, he built an extreme empire that I was very fortunate to work for 14 years.
The most successful owner in NHRA history. John Force's got John Force's deal, but John Force was he was John Force for most of that. Don Schumacher was not Don Schumacher as a driver with his own brand. Don Schumacher built an empire and dominated both classes of nitro for 15 years.
For sure. So I'm not taking away from either one of these. I'm just giving you the difference in how I see it. Don was first and foremost concerned with the business side of it. Just how do we grow? How do we keep it sustained? How do we keep going? Because he just knew that as long as we can keep the ball rolling, we're going to win races and hopefully championships. And Don did an excellent job with that. The later years, I think it was more of a struggle. Whenever the Army funding had left, it just the clamps just became tighter, and nothing wrong with that. That's how he was trying to keep his business to survive, but it made it harder to race there. There was just not an open checkbook to go do what you needed to do. And not that there ever is. These nitro cars, they're burning it faster than almost anybody can rake it in. That's a fact. But whenever the biggest eye-opening thing for me was whenever I went to work for Tony, and it was a lot of conversation. I was very fortunate to get to spend a couple years with him leading up to him saying, okay, like, we're going to do this. We're going to dive into NHRA. But when he said go, he meant go. I mean, there was no like, hey, let's do this, but let's just do what we need to do to get by for the first year. I mean, he just kind of threw it all, and Tony's great about throwing it in the lap of the organization. Yes, he has the final call, but he also has some really great people surrounding him that look out for his finances and his business sense. Not that he doesn't have business sense. He just is very, very good at having just a sounding board and having these guys around him that
delegation.
Look out for him and his best interest. And a lot of that is because he doesn't want to do that stuff. He doesn't want to be an owner. He wants to be a
race car. Yeah.
He is. I have never met anybody in my life that wants to just race. I love racing. I absolutely love it. But man, after U.S. Nationals, I wanted a day or two off, right? I mean, it's just like, oh man, all right, get a break and go back. I wanted to kind of hang out with my family and just not be at a racetrack. And Tony will leave the racetrack trying to figure out where he can go run his TQ midget. And it's like, or the alcohol car, he's just like, oh, I got a weekend off. I'm going to go chase this regional championship.
People are like, why is Tony Stewart running the alcohol car in Bowling Green? And I'm like, because he's trying to win the regional championship. And they're like, why? I said, because he can.
Why not?
Because we joke all the time. He's got a racing problem. He has to.
I walked into the tower in Bowling Green on it had to be Friday. It was Saturday night after round 1 of Super Comp, and he was sitting up there in the tower with Alan and Ron Ruggles and Warren Evans, who does a lot of our .tv stuff. And I walked in, I looked at him and go, "What the bleep are you doing here?" And he goes, we're trying to win the regional championship. And I went, like, why? Like, we got to go to Indy next week. Like, he's like, oh, hey, you know, I just that way. And we had some jokes about stuff, whatever. And then he wanted to know how I was running. And I was like, that's kind of cool, whatever. And then I turned around and next thing you know, he's sitting over on the board learning from Warren how to like direct the .tv show. And I'm like, dude, like,
oh no, he's
like his brain doesn't stop. There's
and
like
by
no
the
off, there's no off
like,
switch there.
Yeah, and like you were saying, being completely and totally humble about it. I mean, like we were in Brainerd last year, and I'm walking up through the pits, and here he comes on a scooter. He just stops and starts talking to me for like 10 minutes. I'm like, hey,
So
man,
yeah,
that's like I met Mario Andretti before, and I'm like, that guy's the coolest guy too. But you know, to have him just roll up on a scooter, I'm like, bro, I'm the clown out here.
I don't think that Tony Stewart, like, I'm sure like deep down, like he gets right. But like, I don't think that the way his brain works, that he compartmentalizes that Tony Stewart is Tony Stewart. Like he doesn't wake up and think to himself, like, I'm Tony Stewart. I am in every Hall of Fame that ever existed and the top 5 of every statistical chart ever on anything. Blah, blah. Like that's not how his brain. He wakes up and he goes, "I'm Tony Stewart. Today I want to go put a helmet on and drive a race car."
Yeah,
that sounds fun.
That's just it. I mean, when we were
like, and then when we're done, I want to go have a drink with my friends and I want to hang out with my wife. Like, and then tomorrow morning we'll get up and we'll do it again. We'll find somewhere else to go race. Like, that's just kind of how he works.
When we were putting the program together in the off season of that, going into the 22 season, and he had parked his sprint car and then he was just involved with, you know, he was at the shop almost every single day unless he had an appearance to helping us put that program together. But in the evenings, he went to a local slot car track and was racing slot cars with a group of guys because he needed to compete in something. And it was like, it was the middle of winter in Indiana. And, you know, it was just like, well, I don't know, like I got to do something. And he was on eBay buying, you know, motors and cars and all kinds of slot car stuff. And we got the biggest kick out of that. We're like, it is official. You have a racing problem.
Right.
But no, he's intense when it comes to it. There's no one I've ever met that wants to do it at that extreme level. I mean, there's stories of like the Kobe Bryants, right? You know, the Kobe Bryants of, you know, you got to outwork everybody. You got to outplay everybody. You got to, Kobe became one of the best from my understanding. I'm not a huge sports guy, but because he truly worked at it, you know, and the Michael Jordans and
in the gym at 5 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, they would just make other guys just shake their head about like, gosh, that's just insane what they're going through to become the best. But that's I put Tony in that bracket of just there is no end in sight of where he wants to stop. It's just, what do we have to do to be better? Just what's that take? Right. And how do we get there? It's awesome. It's great to have the support of an owner like that, and it's a lot of fun racing with him. That's for sure.
Well, it's fun watching you guys.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and anytime I picked him in my drag racing bracket bonanza to win a couple of these things, and he keeps screwing me up. So if you
it's coming,
it's
coming.
He's not the one screwing you up. We haven't lost a round on him yet this year. That. I'll take
all right. Well, Neal, get it together.
For that. But
get it together, Neal. Come on.
We're trying.
He's 5th in average reaction time in Top Fuel, which for a rookie, I think is. I mean, like, and as you said, Neal, like not just a rookie, but like for somebody who had 24 alcohol races under their belt their whole life in a drag racing car, I think is phenomenal. And like if you look at the names who are ahead of him, you're like, oh, he's 5th, right? Like, yeah, he's 5th, and it's like Sean Langdon, Antron Brown, Justin Ashley, like. And he's not far behind them, you know, right. Like he's not 5th because there's somebody out there who a couple of times has closed their eyes and been 00 and, you know, had a bad red light, you know, like they, I mean, he's 5th because he's earning it. I mean, it's
and you know, he's been eerie consistent. Like we even kind of had to shake our head when we got through Indy. I mean, he was in the 80s. Every run in qualifying, all 5 runs in qualifying, and then all 3 runs on race day, he was in the 60s. And it's just like, I mean, including himself. Does everybody wish that was a little bit quicker? Everybody does, unless you're, I mean,
Right.
Justin Ashley's never even content with all his great reaction times.
Right.
It's like, man, I wish I was a little bit better. But the consistency factor of that, man, just so you're not, 30, 150, 140, those are it's like, man, you're bouncing around, but he's eerie consistent, and which I love that, because I know he looks at it, Leo looks at it. I'm pretty sure all the drivers, they look at those sheets going into race day of their opponent and be like, okay, how'd their lights been this weekend? And if he's been 85 runs in a row in qualifying, well, you better bet that he's going 80 first round. Like, it's that has to be a feather in his cap of just, hey man, here, I'm not all over the board. You better be there, because I'm going to be there. So
yeah, for sure. It's going to be fun to watch in the countdown.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big story for the sport. So good luck. We'll see you in Reading.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Neal Strausbaugh.
Look at that guy.
Crew chief, Tony Stewart Racing. Look at that.
Yeah,
that team's coming, dude. They're coming.
Yeah. Oh,
In a big way.
Again,
They've been coming.
Because
A couple semifinals here. They went to the finals in Sonoma. Like, that team is coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to be a problem in the countdown.
Yep.
So good. Well, Jason Galvin.
All right. See you tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night you get there.
Yeah, I don't get until like 5:15.
All right.
Which, is Philly 5:15, and then I got a rental car and the drive and traffic. So I won't be in Reading until like 7:15 or 7:30. So just figure out where I'm meeting you guys for dinner, because I'm really sad, but my favorite cheesesteak place for the second year in a row has decided to take this week off. Like,
what?
Yeah, they take a week and a half off because it's a family run place. Take a week and a half off in 2 years in a row now. It's been this last year and this year. Very sad about that.
Is this a Philly in Philadelphia?
Yeah. Yeah,
oh, that's right. You go over there. Oh, Del Sandro's. Yeah, that is a good place.
Phenomenal. Anyways, so yeah, pick dinner. Let me know when I'm meeting you and Joe.
Will do.
Yeah.
It's your thing.
Again, he did it again. You are incredible at playing the music, muting your mic, and then talking, not realizing that your mic.
You can't hear me when I.
No, I mean I can now, but you have made a career out of that on the show.
We're getting a new show. We're getting a new platform. Who knows? I don't know. But anyways, if you're going to get there on Saturday morning, you better get to the track early, because the traffic getting into Maple Grove is out of control. That's just a tip. Just letting you know. All right, guys. Let's see everybody ready. See you next week. Bye-bye.